Now, no state can exist within the international political system without that thing called the foreign policy. So it's like a tool, it's like diplomacy, like war, like all those other tools I've been talking about within the international political system. Now, it is what basically promotes friendly relation and understanding among states. Now, without foreign policy, it will be very, very difficult for states to exist in harmony. Now, they are like the rules and regulations that governs the affairs of states. Now, what you get from foreign policy, as usual, is dependent on your skill. I think I'm fond of saying that what you get at each level is dependent on your skill. Lecturers have no favorite. They teach you the same way. But from the same class, some people will get 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4.5 point. We are teaching you the same way. So your skill is what determines what you get at the end of every semester. Now, it is the same with that thing called the foreign policy. Now, the foreign policy that's available to Nigeria is the one that's available to America, is the one that's available to Britain, to Russia, to France, and the rest of them. But why they are better compared to that of Nigeria is dependent on their skill. And that was why I said foreign policy is a tool, a very, very important tool. As a matter of fact, it is what gives the rules and regulation that governs relationships among states within the international political system. Please, can I continue?
Yes, sir.
Again, I'll repeat it. Say, I cannot be your friend unless you agree by my rules and conditions. You cannot be my friend, or I can't be your friend, either way, unless the two of us are actually agreed. You came into LASU. There is one form that they told you guys to fill. I think you're asking online, that cultism something. Or something. Now, if you fail to fill that thing, you are not a LASU student. That thing is considered to be LASU's foreign policy. So you can only be a student if you agree to all those terms and conditions. That I said is a skill. Skill is what determines what you get from that thing called the foreign policy. Now, the foreign policy that's available to America is the same one that is available to Nigeria. But why it seems as if the Americans are better than that of Nigeria is dependent on their skill. So skill matters. Now, you can be a genius in this class, extremely brilliant, intelligent. If you have a terrible handwriting, you still have carryover. Yes, now your handwriting, is that not your skill? How you might be writing rubbish, but if the lecturer likes your handwriting, you still pass. I said it is dependent on that skill. And that was why I said, states cannot have meaningful relationship unless they have a good foreign policy. Now, it shows the importance or the significance of that thing called the foreign policy. So quickly, so what is foreign policy? Now, according to Joseph Frankel, foreign policy consists of decisions and actions. Foreign policy consists of decisions and actions which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. Consists of decisions and actions which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. Decisions and actions. What you hope to achieve. You came into last 100 level and you want to graduate with first class story. By the time you're in 400 level, now you came to LASU in 100 level, your plan is to graduate in 4 years' time. Decisions and action. You came to LASU in 100 level and your plan is to be successful. So decision and action. That is why every state they have their foreign policy. Every state they have their foreign policy at independence. It's the same thing that you have. Once you are in LASU, you have your plan for coming into LASU. So 4 years from now, you plan to be a graduate. Not just that, you plan never to have a carryover. That is your foreign policy. You plan not to move with smokers. You plan not to move with drunkards. That is your own foreign policy. So foreign policy consists of decisions and actions which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. Foreign policy are always external. It's not for you. They are usually for the international community. But then they are meant to make your life better. You are doing this not because your parents wanted you to do it. No, you are doing this thing that you are doing in LASU now for your future. Oh, fine, it's your parent that pushed you, motivated you, insulted you, and the rest of the something, and you are here. But then you are not doing it for their own sake. They've lived their own life. They've done their own stuff. But then you are doing it for yourself and how you survive in the future. So I say foreign policy consists of decisions and actions which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. 2, can I continue? Now, according to Kate Legs and Dorothy Pickles, just put Legs and Pickles, they said, the two of them said, foreign policy are explicit. Explicit in this sense simply means clearly stated objective. Explicit. Objective. And listen, this is where it gets interesting. I think out of all the definitions, I think I prefer these ladies and these guys' definition. They say clearly stated objective, which a state hopes to achieve. 1, 2, then how to achieve them. Clearly stated objective, which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. 2, then how to achieve them. Two things from that definition. Clearly stated objectives, which a state hopes to achieve within the international political system. Then 2, how to achieve them. So you get two things from that definition. 1, foreign policy consists of 2 parts. Pronouncement, you say it. 2, implementation. That is where Nigeria actually missed it. So foreign policy consists of 2 things now. So 1, pronouncement, as you say it. I'm sure Christians are familiar with that thing. What they call that thing? Possessing your possession. Yes, you possess everything, even if you are jobless and the rest of the something. You possess 5 points. You don't come to school, you don't read, you cannot even spell your name, and yet you are possessing your possession. You are graduating with first class. After Sunday service, you are motivated. So pastor now says you go and pick your car, and you don't have a job, you don't have a penny to your name. Then you now have to, when you've now gone to the car park, then the most expensive car, 2024 Range Rover, you touched it, you possess your possession. That is 1. Pronouncement. Then 2, the important aspect of it, which is where Nigeria has actually missed it completely, implementation. It's a different thing that you have first class. It's a different thing that you want to have 5 points throughout this semester. Now, the second one is, can you now do the work that will make you get that 5 points? Can you deny yourself? Can you read 24/7? Can you go to library? Can you shun parties, drinking, watching movies to get that 5 points? Now, implementation is action, basically. Everybody wants to have first class. Everybody wants to have first class. That's the pronouncement. I mean, when you enter into 100 level, you're already saying it. You're going to graduate with good results, good grades. That is 1. Even I think the Bible said it now. Faith without work is dead, or something like that. So you can make all the pronouncement you want in the world, but then if you don't actually put in the effort, then of course you'll graduate with 3rd class or pass, or not even graduate at all. They call Nigeria the giant of Africa, but you know within yourself what Nigeria is. Exactly, they refer to Nigeria as the giant of Africa. But then, is Nigeria doing that thing that will make people see it as a giant? I don't know. So that was why the woman said, the author said, it consists of explicit pronouncement. Then that is 1. Then 2, finally, you now have what they call implementation. You now have what they call implementation. That was why Nigeria's independence in 1960, Tafawa Balewa read out a foreign policy. So, of course, now, free capitalism, free trade with everybody, we'll be friendly towards all nations. We are going to be non-aligned. We're not going to take sides in conflict. Everybody is our friends and so on and so forth. They will promote independence for Africa. We are against colonialism within Africa. Then importantly, he now said, we wouldn't want to have anything to do with Russia. Then they call it USSR. You know why? Because he said USSR was a godless society. In other words, we are only interested in dealing with countries that are religious. In Russia back then, in USSR back then, what they had was communism. Communism does not believe in the existence of God. And Nigerians now, being very religious, we now say we don't want to associate with devil. So we did not actually, the foreign policy clearly stated that we don't want any friendship. It's just that simple with that country called Russia. And that was why I said explicit objective, 1. Then 2, pronouncement. 2, implementation. The things that you do to achieve those objectives. Now, quickly, techniques of foreign policy. Techniques of foreign policy. How do you achieve the foreign policy for your state? Techniques of foreign policy. 1, economic sanction. One, economic sanction. Two, yeah, that stuff I taught you last week, diplomacy. In fact, they even consider diplomacy to be one of the most important tools of foreign policy. Two, diplomacy. Three, force. Force. Then four, finally, propaganda. Four, finally. Now, as a technique of foreign policy, again, propaganda, then diplomacy, force, then finally, economic sanction. Those are the four techniques of foreign policy. Now, when Niger removed its president, Nigeria applied one of these techniques. It's something you witnessed. You were alive when that thing happened. You know, through ECOWAS now, then we now said we imposed what they call a sanction on Niger, economic sanction, and we cut off their light, just trying to force the military guys to put back their president that they removed. I said one important technique of foreign policy is economic sanction. I think your parents do that thing to you sometimes when you've done what they didn't like or what they didn't want you to do, and they starve you. They won't give you food, or they won't give you transport fare, or they won't do something. And I said they didn't beat you, but they're trying to apply pressure for you to modify your behavior. Yeah, they won't give you that food, or they give you food, they won't give you meat. You know, they give you the meat and they won't give you the food. Or like I said, when you push them to the wall, they won't even pay your school fees. Now, economic sanction is an important tool in the arsenal of foreign policy. States use it a lot. You know, rather than actually force is always a last resort. When they've tried the other three and it failed, they now use force to achieve their objective. Remember, I said foreign policy is a tool in the hands of states. When you apply the other three, which are benign, which are still better, when they fail, then you go back to the ultimate one, which is force. So economic sanction, as the name suggests, it simply means now trying to deny states economic resources or things that will make that state better. And why do you do that? To be able to force such states to modify their behavior, to change the direction of their behavior. And I gave you an example of Niger and ECOWAS. Niger removed their president, then ECOWAS with Nigeria put pressure on them. They sanctioned them. Goods cannot go in, goods cannot go out, trying to pressurize them to change their behavior. Since 1945, the end of the Second World War, America has imposed economic sanction on North Korea till today. So since 1945 till now, America has imposed economic sanction on North Korea till today. It is the same with Iran. Since the 1980s, America has imposed economic sanction on Iran. So it shows the economic sanction is an important tool in the hands of a state now in trying to achieve their foreign policy objective. Just as you have the negative aspect of it, you also have the positive aspect of it. When you want a state to do something again, you can give them more money. That is positive. You are trying to motivate them, incentivize them to behave in a way that is favorable towards you. You know, that's why they refer to Nigeria as giant of Africa back then, when we had enough oil money, dollar. You know, we were paying the salaries of countries, not citizens. We pay the salaries of other countries. So that all of them can actually applaud Nigeria, see Nigeria as their big brother back then. So the same way you use that thing negatively, you can also use it positively. Under Jonathan, they were given barrels of crude oil to some countries to sell so that they can have money. You know, they were starving. God gave us, we were nice people. So rather than them starve, we just give them barrels of crude oil, just sell and use that thing to develop your economy. So it's a foreign policy tool. So you can use it to punish, again, yes, to punish. And again, you can also use that thing to motivate for a state to behave in a way that is profitable to your own state. America do that a lot. Yeah, that thing they call foreign aid or foreign direct investment or something. America, when they want something from you, they try to play nice, act nice, give you things, then you modify your behavior that way. But then when you didn't do that again, they cannot impose that sanction to your country. Yeah, you cannot come to my country, you cannot sell your goods to my country, you cannot sell your product to my country. So economic sanction. 2, force. Force is a last resort out of the 4, like I said. Force is a last resort. out of the four. Of course, what you cannot achieve through economic sanction, through diplomacy, through propaganda, you achieve through force. Force is a last resort used by states to achieve, yes, their objective. A good example is Russia and Ukraine. Russia has been trying to tell Ukraine not to join NATO, not to move towards the West. Ukraine did not listen to Russia. Russia used diplomacy, it failed. Russia used economic sanction, it failed. They are still using propaganda. That failed. Eventually, they invaded Ukraine. So that was why I said it's a tool. Again, and it's an important technique. So when you try one, it's always calibrated. It didn't work. You go to 2, it didn't work, 3, 4. Then you just go to the ultimate. The ultimate is now you are trying to compare that day to align, that state to align with your foreign policy. Please, can I continue? Finally, of course, I taught you that diplomacy now. Persuasion, negotiation, and the rest of them. Lying, whatever it is, to achieve your foreign policy objective. Lying, persuasion, negotiation, bribing, anything it involves, short of violence, short of aggression, to achieve your foreign policy objective. In fact, diplomacy is one of the most prized technique of foreign policy. Most states actually prefer diplomacy to force. But the problem with diplomacy is that stuff takes time. Unlike force, that is basically instantaneous. Diplomacy can take 20 years. Diplomacy can take 50. I mean, it takes time for you to realize that objective. And like I said now, it involves lots of trying to persuade the other states to see things from your own perspective. And that is why most states don't wait for diplomacy to work. So if diplomacy does not work, then they can go for economic sanction. If economic sanction does not work, they can go for program. But then when that one fails, they use the ultimate force. It's just that simple. When a mosquito is flirting around you, trying to bite you, you shoo it. When you get tired, you just switch on your light and look for anything to just smack that thing. When you're still gentle, you just do like this. But then the thing keeps coming back. You remember what the Bible said, that shall not kill you. You didn't want to kill it, but then when you got tired of that thing, then you start hunting the mosquito. Finally, propaganda. Now, see, propaganda is interesting. You are not interested in, talking to the government of that state. Now, listen, you are not interested in talking to the government of the state that you are trying to influence or modify their behavior. You are interested in talking to the people directly. You are interested in talking to the people directly and turn them against their government. So for propaganda, is an important technique of foreign policy. So you are not interested in talking to the government, Tinubu of Nigeria, for example. No. You are interested in talking to Nigerians themselves so that they can throw out their president. That is propaganda, the highest form of subversion. That you are not interested in talking to the lecturer directly. No, at all. You are going to incite the students against the lecturer. As it is an important tool. That was why this year, if I remember, early this year, when 2 North Korean girls were caught, I think they were just 13 or 14 years old. When they were caught watching K-pop, North and South Korea, they're like neighbors, but they are enemies. They are the same father, the same mother, but then they are different. They now, 2 brothers now went different ways. Now, it is forbidden, or like they say in German, verboten, it is forbidden for a North Korean to watch anything from South Korea. South Koreans can watch everything, it's not a crime, but it is forbidden in North Korea for you to watch anything. Now, what South Korea was always doing was to turn out propaganda things, to let the people of North Korea know that they are suffering, so that they can turn against their president, Kim Jong-un. Are you getting it? Now, overthrow the man, then the 2 Koreas can now become one together. So, early this year, 2 girls now watched a K-pop drama, all those Korean films now, and they were caught, and they were sentenced to 13 years imprisonment. Yes. That is the danger of that thing called propaganda. And that's why your parents keep telling you, don't follow your friend, be careful the kind of friends you follow. In your own house, you see every morning, every early in the morning, before you sleep at night, you pray, and then you came across somebody is now saying, God, who is God? God does not exist. You die one day, you pray, you don't pray, you still die one day. Me that I'm a sinner, you that we are all going to die together. Exactly. Is it everybody that reads that pass? I know of good students that didn't graduate now. So what's your stress? After all, there are a lot of school dropouts that are successful people. Exactly. You see, you're negating everything that the teacher has been teaching you, everything that the lecturer. So you are coming to the student directly to alter their perception. It is the same thing states do. Please, any question?